Happy Monday. How y'all doing?
Really? See, I just gotta start out giggling.
Yo, if y'all saw Lex, y'all would be giggling too.
Whatever. Hi, everybody. Today we have a special guest, another one. As you can hear, that was not my low laugh voice.
Yes, it was.
Wow. Well, our people who watch would know by now that that was not me. But we have my friend Ace with us today. It's the top of the new year, so I feel like at the beginning of the year, everybody cares about getting in shape, or at least they try to tell themselves that, you know, they want to refocus on working out and getting themselves together. It's a lot of that energy right now. So I thought it would be a good idea to talk to Ace, who works in the field of physical wellness. And so we're going to kind of get into that. First of all, thanks for being with us.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, we appreciate you. So first of all, can you just kind of, and we'll get deeper into it, but like, what do you do?
Yeah.
So people know.
So long story short, I'm a fitness coach. I never use the word trainer. I'm a coach.
That's what I wanted to get to.
Well,
I was like, I don't know if I
was
should
about
call
to
him a
dive in there
trainer.
already.
Can we just dive into that, because I'm also in holistic health and wellness. That's
Dope.
what I do.
So I'm like, what's
and
the
actually, my
difference?
company is Holistically Dope, so
Hey,
it's
now.
perfect you say that.
Come on.
But why do you not like to be called a trainer?
Well, I've been in the fitness industry. Let's see, I graduated college in 2009. So I've been in fitness pretty much my whole life, but as a career or a job, probably since 2010, 11. And to me, a trainer is someone that counts reps, counts sets. Now, I do think that there are good trainers out there, but as a coach, my job is to tap into something deeper. And it's not just about the physical aspect, it's more so about the internal aspect. And I think trainers more so deal with the external effect of the body. A coach really gets into the mind, the body, and the spirit together.
But is that just based on how you define it? Or, because like you said, there may be trainers who care about the full.
I agree, but then I look at it because I have a sports background too.
Okay.
And to me, the best coaches aren't the ones that just draw up plays, aren't the ones that tell you where to go, where not to go.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's knowing the personnel, it's knowing everyone's strengths and weaknesses and putting them in a position to succeed, but also encouraging them in a way that they can bring more out of themselves than they thought they had in the first place.
see.
Those are the most
I was
successful
about to
coaches
say
to me.
vision, right?
Exactly.
Vision of the
Yep.
not only the players and the people that you're working with, but also the field.
Exactly.
You got to know what they're up against.
You have to see everything.
I see. So it's just like how we see people being life coaches and other things like that, or financial coaches. You are just taking a step further to say it's not just meet me at the gym this time, but I
Right.
care about your whole life, what's going on.
Yeah, so because it all counts. So you know, I always tell people, like, the gym is the only place that's non-subjective. You know, nothing else matters. Nothing can get in the way, but yourself. So whatever you bring to the gym, whether it's work-related, family-related, relationship-related, career-related, whatever, that can affect and impede your progress if you bring that energy into the gym. And so I have to decipher that, and I have to shut that off. But I have to get to them in a way where they know that this is about themselves and that a healthier them, a more fit them, and ultimately they're going to get able to spread that to other areas of their life too. You know, and I think as a coach, you have to be able to know, because you can't coach everyone the same. Everyone has different needs. There's no way of eating. There's no way of training that fits everyone. You know, fitness is a one size fits nobody.
Exactly.
So you have to dive into them as a person first. That's why it's personal training. It's not training. It's personal.
And I love that. But you said you started training in, like, was it 10 or 11?
Yes.
And so was it always like that?
No, it really was about the check.
Okay.
And the free membership.
Yeah,
Came in
can
front.
you tell us?
About that.
So you have on your Detroit versus
Come on
everybody
now.
hoodie.
So,
And
so
you're
are you from Detroit?
I am from
right?
Detroit. I
Okay.
am from.
So tell us your story about Detroit school, and like, how did you even get into this field at all?
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Take it away.
And like how, because what I'm interested in is that transformation from being like, you know what, this isn't the full story. Like, because I know you were a trainer.
yes.
So I guess kind of how you got into physical wellness, physical and mental wellness, and then, you know, how that evolved.
Okay. So I'll start from the beginning. And for me, sports was always in my family. So I'm the youngest of 6.
Ooh,
Now,
really?
okay,
The
but
baby?
before we get into that,
You don't act like the youngest sibling.
chill.
from the oldest.
My parents were each married once before they married each other.
okay.
So I'm the only child from my parents.
Oh.
So I had 3 brothers on my father's side, and 2 on my mother's side.
All boys?
All boys.
Oh, wow.
All boys. I
I
have
know you
like
was getting beat up.
I think I have
That's what started this. We already figured it
He's
out.
trying to survive.
right? Podcast over. We figured it out. So I grew up in a sports family. So we played football, we played basketball, we did the whole thing.
That's cool.
And we played baseball. Baseball was my main sport growing up, but as time went on, I really grew a love for basketball because baseball was always a sport where you kind of needed other people in order to get better. Like you needed someone to hit the ball to you. You needed someone to play
practice.
catch with. With basketball, you can do it on your own. And so I gravitated more to that because I didn't need anybody to be good. You know, I can just work on my game myself, whether it was in the rain, the snow, or the sunshine. I was always outside dribbling the ball,
Practicing.
always.
Yeah.
And I played basketball all through high school. I played all the way through college. And I turned pro when I graduated college. And I ended up having 3 knee surgeries.
Ooh.
Yeah, I had 3 of them. I had my first one at 17, my senior year in high school. I had my second one after my junior year in college. I actually played my whole junior season while it was torn.
Your ACL?
Oh,
No,
you're
it
tripping.
was. I had 3 MCL surgeries.
Good God.
So I played my whole junior year while I was torn. I didn't want to have surgery because my sophomore year was a big season for me, and I wanted to keep playing. I didn't want to miss another year. And then I had my third one on my right knee a year or 2 after I graduated college when I was going pro.
So it's a different knee?
I had 2 on my left, 1 on my right.
Wow. So, sorry, because now I'm getting new information. I like having my friends on the podcast or people I know, because then it's like, hold up, you did what?
Yeah.
You did what?
How do you feel about the pressure of sports from a young age, and that, you know, it's one of those things where, wow, this could be more than just a ticket, right? I don't think these kids don't love the sport, because I do think they love it. But it is also something like, yo, if I can get to even college level, or if I can get to pros, like that's a big deal. And that can help bring your whole family out of a situation, for example. But how do you feel about that pressure on the body? And like you said, you tried to push through, which probably made it worse than better. But it's like, how do you balance that pressure of your body versus, dang, but I have a chance to do something else?
Okay, so first, there's a difference between pushing through and being stupid. I was being dumb. I was being stupid.
Yeah.
Now, I knew, and I don't want to bash my college or anything like that. I knew my knee was torn, and because I've had it done before, I know what it felt like. And I was going to the trainers and I was going to the coaches, and I would tell them that there's something wrong with my knee. And they was like, no, it's just this and that. And then, you know, I was a captain already as a sophomore. I led the team in scoring, rebounding, and assists. Like I was, yeah. I mean,
So you kind of felt responsibility to keep going.
Well, see here. Okay, so here's the thing that a lot of people don't know. My original plan was to only go to that school for a year and then transfer out. So when I was recruited out of high school, I was I don't want to HB myself, but I was an All-American nominee.
Yeah.
But I only played 2 seasons of high school basketball. And so what happened, I had my first surgery my senior year. So I went to 2 high schools. I went to 2 private schools. When I transferred after my sophomore year going into my junior year, I had to sit out first half of the season. That's a rule.
Because you can't transfer just to go play somewhere else.
Exactly. So I played half the season of my junior year, and then I tore my knee halfway through my senior year. So I played a full season of varsity my sophomore year, and then half junior, half senior. And my plan was, I had a lot of Division I offers, but they took them away when I had my surgery. They didn't want to take a chance on me. I said, fine.
So now you see how it works.
Exactly. So now my
it's
goal was,
cutthroat.
it is, it's a business, and I get it. But I also understand, you know, if you guys want to talk about that too, I understand players want to get paid too.
That's what I was about to say. It ain't
I
a
was going
business
to
to
ask
pay your
you,
players get
do you want
paid.
them to get paid? Do you think they should get paid?
100%.
100%.
Yeah, I do.
150.
And
That's so
here's-
much
And
you
here's
put
the
your body
thing
through.
that people
God,
don't
dog.
understand is you have to have the same responsibility as someone on academic scholarship times 10 because you don't have the time to study. You're traveling. You have 2 practices a day. You have responsibilities of nutrition. One, you can't get a job either when in season. That's the thing that people don't understand either. You can't work when you're on a scholarship. And if you do work, you have to work on campus. And you have, you know, these big universities profiting millions and hundreds, if not billions.
You can't even
They
get paid
fund-
off your image. Like,
Dog,
that's
they fund the
wild.
entire university
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the backs of players.
Well, I know
Pretty much.
when I first went to college, one of the first documents I had to sign was basically a release of my persona. So like if they wanted to
That's
put me on a
wild.
billboard or sell my jersey, I had to give them that right to do that without being paid. But
They be screwing over players.
yeah, it's crazy, and it's like it's a job, yo. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
How do you feel about? And I'm not gonna get too far off what we're doing, but
Yeah.
since you're here and this was part of your life, how do you feel about there being more of like either a minor league or calling it something else? So it's like, yo, if I'm that good and I just want to play, I can just play versus doing having schools and school sports together.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to answer it the way I think that you want to answer it. So when I graduated college, the NBA started what was called the NBA Developmental League. So it's like their version of the
D-League,
minor
yeah.
league.
D-Leagues.
Okay, it's now called the G League. So they changed the name. Now at the time, you had one D League team per 2 NBA teams. So you had 2 teams that owned one D League team. So I tried out for the Erie Bayhawks, which was owned by the Chicago Bulls and the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I also tried out for the Utah Flash. At the time, they were owned by the Utah Jazz and the Atlanta Hawks.
That's
So
interesting.
after my 3rd surgery, I went to the camp in Atlanta. And I stayed with our friend Lev there when I was there. And I killed it.
Ooh.
I killed it.
Hey.
And I knew for a fact I was getting invited to training camp. I knew it. I talked to the
That's a
coach
good
afterwards, and he said, yeah, you're coming. So about 2 weeks after that, I remember I was in church, and it was like members and family day or something like that, like family and friends day. So it was super packed, and I got there kind of late. And they brought these folding chairs out so people can sit in the aisles. And I remember sitting down, and my phone went off, like I got an email. And then I looked at it, and it said, basically, long story short, we want you to come to training camp. But unfortunately, the point guard that was there the season before who was overseas is coming back. So they used my roster spot to give it to him. So it was at that moment where I was like, all right, I'm done. I had 3 knee surgeries. I can't do this anymore. But I do feel, to answer your question, that there should be an option if someone out of high school knows what they want to do, because the purpose of going to college is to find out what you want your career to be. Supposedly,
It is
that's what
now.
it is, right?
Supposedly.
So if I know I want to play professional basketball and I don't need college to do that, why? What's the point of me going? What's the point of me sacrificing a potential 4-year, $30 million contract that can get my family out of poverty to going to a school where they're making millions of dollars off me and I blow my ACL out and now I'm not valuable anymore? So I do think there should be an option for kids to bypass the system to go straight into what they want to do, because it's not their decision to get drafted. Teams have to draft them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And they're already being groomed anyway. Like even now, people are looking at middle schoolers, obviously high schoolers, and basically grooming them for where they want them to be.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, they
Yeah.
start doing where people move their parents and give them jobs in different cities to play on better teams.
It's crazy.
It's a lot that goes into that. But that was interesting. I'm glad you told that story. So from having went through those surgeries, and so you were already into sports, of course, how do you transition into the next step for you?
Well, and to relate it back, so you get that call, you decide you're not doing it. Now what?
Okay, good question. So I kind of went through like a quarter life crisis because basketball was like, that was it.
That's what happens with most sports people
Yeah.
when all of a sudden it's like, oh,
It's like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And for me, I was super obsessive. Now, I didn't start playing basketball until I was like 7th or 8th grade because I was a baseball player. And so I got super, super obsessive. And the way I research, I'm more interested in what players do when no one else is watching. I don't really care about the highlights. I don't care about the dunks. What was Michael Jordan doing in the offseason? That's what I want to know.
What's the secrets?
Give me his
Yeah.
workout program. That's what I want. So I was running 10 miles a day. I was going to the gym. I was lifting weights. I was putting up my shots. I was doing drills. I was running in the snow. I was doing everything. So I dedicated my entire life.
Rocky.
Yeah, for real.
Basically.
And I sacrificed school. Like, I was a straight A student all the way through 8th grade. And then once I got to high school, it was like basketball, that was it. And, you know, I always tell people I dropped out of high school, you know, in like the 7th grade. I was done. Mentally, I was out. Mentally, I was out. Once I made my decision, I was done. And after it ended, I kind of went through like a quarter life crisis. Like, I spent 10 years doing this. What do I do now? So I went with what I already knew, which was the gym. So I got a job at a gym as a front desk guy. I wasn't even a trainer. I worked the front desk. And what ended up happening was I showed someone, you know, a workout, or they saw me work out and people started asking me. And then it evolved into a trainer. And then I got certified, because actually in the state of Michigan, you don't need to be certified to be a trainer.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
At that
interesting.
time, you didn't. I'm not sure about now.
Yeah.
And so it turned into that. And then I moved to Brooklyn in 2012 to model and act.
Oh, cool.
I'm telling you, like, I went through about 4 years of like throwing shit against the wall and trying to see
What
stuff.
time period was this?
This was after Hurricane Sandy. So this was 2012 to 2013. So I was training in Michigan for about a year and a half. Sold my car, bought a one-way train ticket to Brooklyn. Went to Brooklyn, got signed for a modeling agency that day. Worked at Tommy Bahama on 45th and 5th Avenue. Shout out to TB. Shout out to TB. And
Not TV.
I was
Not the homie.
Yeah, I was doing the whole grind, man. I was doing casting throughout the day. I was doing catering services at night for Tommy Hilfiger and Skechers. I was doing full-time retail, floor supervisor throughout the afternoon. I was working there full time, and I was doing, going to auditions
Hustling.
and casting. I was hustling, but I love that.
Yeah.
And that's one thing about New York had that Detroit didn't
Energy.
have
You
was
have
the
to.
energy.
Ooh, that energy.
It was the energy. But to lead to the next phase, it wore me down because I was still trying to find myself. So I was trying to do so much.
It gets to a point where it's like you're doing a lot of stuff, but what do I really want
What's
to
the
focus
point?
on? If you're have an obsessive type of characteristics, then it's like you really want to go in on one thing, right?
Exactly.
But it's like also if all of your time is spent doing other things, you really never have time to reflect or even check in, like to
Exactly.
see where you're at.
Yep. So I was really searching for identity more than anything. So I was trying to find something that can give me an identity because basketball was my identity. And so when I lost that, I was like, well, I got to find something else tangible to attach my name to. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay, I'm a model. I'm going to act. I did one play growing up. I didn't do anything else. And I was like, I'm going to act.
But if you already spent all that time getting your body together, it's like, shoot, well, let me show this to somebody.
Right. So I was there for a little over a year. And then I went to a severe depression state where I had to go back home. And people don't know that either. But I had to go back home. And I couldn't get in cars. I couldn't fly in planes. I got claustrophobic like crazy.
It just happened?
It just happened. I just had a breakdown. And then when I got home, I got back to training again. I was working at a private gym studio in the city called Ferndale. Shout out to the Dale.
A lot of shout
All
outs
the
today.
homies, TB, the Dale, what up?
But it was there where I started to rebuild myself. And that's why I love what I do. And my life's work right now is to give back what fitness gave me. And what I needed at that moment was small wins. I needed momentum. And to me, progression is the biggest
confidence.
motivator. Yeah. And there's no other way to get that than to build yourself physically, to me, because you are in complete control at all times.
It's one of the only things you control.
Right. So,
literally.
Yep. And I went all in on that. Rebuilding myself physically and then putting as much pressure as I could on myself physically. And then what started to happen, that philosophy and that way of life spilled into other areas. So when I saw myself change, I was like, okay, all right, well, let's apply this and this and see what happens.
Yeah.
It's like you discover yourself and then you almost want to evangelize to like spread that.
It's
Exactly.
like law of attraction, though.
Yeah.
Like you're working and growing
Yep.
and building, it starts to flood other places.
Exactly.
Can I ask follow up to that section of the story? So when you get to a point where you identify, that's actually the question I should ask because I don't want to put anything onto your story. Why did you identify that, oh shoot, like this, now I'm in like crisis mode? Like a lot of times I feel like we get so used to being kind of like that, like overworked, burnt out, like I'm always tired, I'm always this, but we don't really call it depression or we don't say we're having a breakdown. But what was it where you're like, yo, I need to change something?
It got to the point where, you're talking about when I was in New York?
Yeah, like before you went home.
So
That caused you to go home.
when I couldn't sleep, when I was like, I was hearing voices, like when my arm was like turning
Like
numb.
your body was really telling you, like,
it was like,
reevaluate.
dude, like you have to rehabilitate.
And then how do you feel about your support group in that you were able to go home? Like, were you very open about it? Or was it just like, hey guys, I just need to reset?
No, I was very open about it. You have to be in that state. Like you have to tell people what's going on. And at the time because even me moving to New York, it was still also about proving I'm more than just a basketball player.
Yeah.
So even dealing with the pressure or the stress or the anxiety that I was dealing with, I was still trying to prove to people I can handle this. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not going to let New York break me. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm from Detroit. We don't do that. Mm-hmm. We don't do that. Mm-hmm. But it ended up backfiring. And I went home, rehabilitated, was on medication for a while. And, you know, fitness, I'm telling you, fitness saved my life, man. It was the only time where I really felt in complete control when everything else was out of control. Mm-hmm. You know, and then I really rebuilt my confidence. I mean, I got closer to God that way. You know, I'm a man of God, so like that's always the forefront of me. And it was fitness brought me that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I rediscovered who I really am through that.
That's such a beautiful thing. I feel like that's how I got into fitness too.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people whenever I'm working out or doing yoga or those things, like that's when I feel closest to God.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's beautiful.
I'm trying to see how I relate to that because with me, I do agree and see that when I do go work out, when I'm in the gym, you feel powerful because, like you said, you're in control and you're like, yo, I did this, whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. At the same time, I'm like a person who like moves in spurts. Yeah. So like, I think I wait till, even now, like I kind of wait till I'm like, ugh, like I'm feeling down. And then I text the trainer like, yo, I'm coming in the box tomorrow. Like, or like, yo, what we doing tomorrow? And then like, he'll ask me, he'll be like, yo, are you good? Cause like, what's going on? I'm like, oh, I guess it's obvious. Like, you know, I feel like I need to come in and do something that I can control if I'm feeling out of control in like my other part of my life or whatever. But I'll do that for a little bit and then it's like I feel good and then I'll chill. So I don't know. How do you maintain the consistency? Or it just was that rewarding that it just became regular?
Well, so when I deal with clients, the first thing you got to ask yourself is, why do you want to do this in the first place? Mm-hmm. So there has to be something deeper than just the external stuff. And another thing, too, is you have to focus on who you have to become to get there instead of what the actual goal is. Because if you just focus on accomplishing a weight loss goal or something like that, when you get that and you haven't learned the principles and the discipline to get there, when you reach that goal, you'll fall right off.
So what? Go ahead.
And I was about to say, so whenever you say become, like, can you like dive a little bit deeper into that?
So for me, I'm gonna say this: I think motivation is complete bullshit, and I'm all about behavior change.
Okay.
And motivation to me is it's an emotional stimulant.
Yeah,
you know,
it's very much a drug,
and it's something that you constantly need more of. Now, I think it's great, but
we talked about that in the past episode. How it's like you can listen, and you feel good, but at the end of the day, you have to do stuff.
And I think where people get caught in that quicksand is people are focused way too much on what the number, or let's say, for example, someone wants to lose 50 pounds. They're focused so much on losing 50 pounds that they're not even paying attention. Just because you lose weight doesn't even mean you lost fat.
Yeah.
You're just worried about a number, right? Yeah. So instead of worrying about what the goal is, focus on what behavior changes you have to do to maintain and to sustain what you want, because there's a reason why you're overweight in the first place, or there's a reason why, you know, you can't put on muscle, whatever your case may be. There's a reason why you're in this position to begin with. And one thing I always say too, you know, you can cure yourself from being overweight in 10 seconds. And what I mean by that is you're not overweight. You just practice overweight behavior.
Yeah.
And through that behavior, you start to show overweight characteristics. So calling yourself overweight or calling yourself skinny, that's a permanent label. When we say I am something, that's a permanent thing. You're not overweight. You just practice overweight behavior. You're not broke. You practice broke behavior. So we have to change the
which
behavior.
Which makes you broke,
like
though,
that.
right?
Yeah.
I totally get what you're saying, but at the same time, still, isn't that an example of when we are saying things to feel better or to feel good, whereas we still need to do something? Like, I still am broke.
Right. So the thing is, too, all right, so...
But you're saying that's the first thing to change.
The first thing, if you want the long-lasting change, because for me, the majority of my clientele, if you're trying to get ready for a wedding or something, I probably won't take you.
Valid.
Oh, I see what you mean.
So I'm about behavior
They need to have
change.
a long-lasting...
Because I train people to not to train with me.
Yes.
So
Say that again?
I train people to not to train with me, meaning my goal is to get you off of my client list so you can take care of yourself.
Yeah.
I love
so
that,
it's sustainable.
Because that's kind of like how when people talk about like doctors or lots of different professions where they need to take care of you in some way. It's like, all right, why are you're putting me on all these drugs, or you know, we're working out consistently, but really if you really, really cared about your clients, that should be the goal.
It should be the goal.
Because you can't just keep medicating the symptoms of an underlying root cause. Like you said, if you don't get to the reason why you have those overweight behaviors or those broke behaviors, you'll always be those things.
You have to change the behavior. You can't focus on changing the external. You have to change the behavior, the thought process, your relationship with food, your relationship with money, your relationship with training. You have to change your relationship, because one thing that I notice a lot is when people are engaging with the number on the scale, and let's say they've been working out for a month and they lost 3 pounds, and let's say the goal was to lose 50. Usually those are the people that the next thought is, I have 47 more pounds to lose. The person that's focused on the behavioral change, they're like, I lost 3 pounds.
Yeah.
You know, so the results are still the same, but the mindset's different. You're focused on who you're becoming along the way instead of focusing on just what the numbers on the scale say. And I believe that thought process is transferable to every aspect of your life. Right. When you focus on being the best version of yourself, it just so happens that fitness is probably the only thing that you can control 100%. Yeah. That's why I always lead with it first.
And anywhere, like you don't have to go to a gym. If you really want to get fit, you really can figure out things to do, or you can walk, run.
There's so many things you can do.
Yeah, there's not that many barriers.
Nope.
And so for yourself, I guess like how did you start to tackle your behaviors and change your behaviors?
So I had to get super real with myself. And I think that's the hardest thing is it's so much easier for us to look out the window than the mirror. And I think once I started to look in the mirror and get down to the root of the problem, that this is stuff I've been doing since I was like 8. This isn't new shit. Like this is old stuff that was suppressed over time because I got a pass for being a kid. Like not doing my homework on time, or waiting to the last minute to do my homework, or studying right before bed and calling that studying, never going to the library, or staying up super late to watch wrestling because I was a big wrestling kid. Shout out to
Who's your favorite wrestler?
Undertaker.
Actually, if you look at my socks right now, I have The Rock WWF socks.
But can you do the eyebrow though?
Ooh, hit him.
Okay, he can. All right, that's cool. Lex, who was your favorite? Because hold on, you started spouting off too.
I like the Undertaker.
Of course you did.
He was cool as hell.
Of course
He's still going.
Man, he needs to chill.
He's
he just passed away.
No, he better not. He's still alive.
I think he's still.
No, I think that was. I think that was false. I'm gonna.
No,
Google
he's still
it.
alive.
Yeah, let's Google it. I swear he just
I was
recently
with him
passed
yesterday.
away.
That's my guy.
Shout out to the Undertaker.
Shout out to
whether
the
you're
Undertaker.
undertaken or still here.
No, he's still alive.
I think he
still
passed
alive,
away.
Yeah, no, you
He's
better
still
not.
alive, yo.
Don't speak
Let me
that.
not put that on him.
Man.
Somebody recently just passed away.
Mean Gene passed away. You don't know who that
I don't
is.
know
That's
who
a
that
throwback.
is. Yeah, that's an old throwback.
Yo, his real name is Mark William Calloway.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
No, he's still here. He's still here.
Okay,
See, she tried
good.
to kill
Shout
off
out
the
to the
Undertaker.
Shout
I'm
out to
sorry.
Undertaker.
He always comes
I saw
back.
WWE live in Oklahoma. I was so excited. The Rock
I never
was my
went.
favorite too.
Yeah, I just went low
Shout out
key.
to my cousin.
I went twice this year. I went when he was here. I went home I had a wedding to go to in September, and they happened to have a live event there, and I went. And then when Survivor Series was here in November, and I was like, we're going.
Oh my gosh.
We're there.
Yeah.
But to answer the question, when I was a kid, I do think my parents worked a ton. And they had a lot of kids to watch, and so I think I got
There's
by.
a whole bunch of y'all.
I got by with a lot, but I was a
And you're the baby.
but I was a great kid. See, I have my brothers were some handfuls, get in trouble a
Like
lot.
they didn't have to worry as much, so
No,
it was like
I was very
Yeah.
self-reliant. You know what I mean?
So whenever you did stuff, it was like,
Yeah, and so like I never really got in trouble. I always got straight A's. The only thing I really did was talk a lot in class, but it was because I was bored.
Because you were done with your work.
I was done with my work. Remember how you did like the speed math test?
That's how I used to be.
I used to turn my
Me
paper over
too.
and slap your hand down the table so everyone knew you was done.
first.
Yeah, first, and then I'll have like a whole line I didn't answer because I was trying to rush.
Oh, see, now I finished mine.
But when I was a kid, I had all these different things that I was doing that at the time, of course, you didn't know were bad. But when
Setting
you look back,
habits.
when you're 25, you're like, damn, like I procrastinate. Why do I procrastinate?
Did you figure these things out though, or did you speak to somebody? Or
It was a combination of both. So I think a lot of it was I always knew it, you know, but it's just unfortunate. Sometimes it takes something catastrophic for you to really look at yourself and be like, why am I here in the first place? Which is why when I speak to clients, before we even train, we talk for an hour. And I need to know why you're here. What are you dealing with? What's your marriage like? What's your sleep pattern like? How are your kids? How do you eat? What's your work stress like? I need to know what you're dealing with because now I know how to come up with strategies to avoid certain hurdles that you're already dealing with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when I started asking myself certain questions like, okay, why am I staying up so late when I know I'm supposed to be a bit early? Like, why am I waiting to the last minute to do this? You know, why do I wait to the absolute last minute to pay this?
That's a
You know,
word.
why do I?
Me today, shout out to the 5th.
Yeah.
I was about to say,
Just sending
That's
my
a
rent money.
word.
Right. So it's like, why am I doing all these things? And it's like, and then another thing too,
It feels good to uncover that.
your circle is so important. And I'm blessed to have a great core group of friends that I've had for a long period of time. But at the same
I thought
time,
you was finna shout them out too.
hey, Mom.
Go on, you might as well.
shout out to my mom, shout out to Gloria, shout out to Jeff, my father. Shout y'all out.
Hi, Gloria and Jeff. I like that.
Hey.
But it took a little bit of uncovering. And then, and I say that all the time too, my faith really, like, when I was against the wall, that was the first time I like, okay, I can't do
How?
this anymore. It just got to a point where I realized when I came back from New York, I couldn't do it by myself. You know, and faith was always in the mix, but my parents never forced it. They kind of like allowed me to
That's
grow
good, I
into
think.
that.
That is good.
Because that's why we bounced the other way. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah,
I'm
like,
tired of going
bump this.
morning,
Yeah.
night,
You know,
Wednesday.
and I would go, you know, of course it was like we're going to church, but as when I got to like 14, 15,
Oh, gosh, that's
16,
early.
it was like,
I still got to go when I go home.
if they were like, you know, if I didn't want to go or I fake sleep, Mom,
Oh, nah. Yeah, that wouldn't work.
you
Like,
know,
get
I
up.
didn't, but when I came back from New York and up until like, I think around like 2013 was when I really started doing some self-assessing. That's when I really got closer to going to church. I got baptized in 2014 and I really started going. Now, when I used to go, I would skip praise and worship. It's like, just give me the word.
Yeah.
I'm coming
Yeah.
in for
I
the
ain't here for
word.
this.
And then that becomes the most powerful part
Oh,
sometimes.
Yes.
I'm
Oh
there
my
early.
God.
Sometimes I stay for both services so I can get it. Shout out to Oasis in LA. That is my church.
Gonna name this episode shout out.
Right. But it and I have the tattoo on my forearm. It's my anchor. So I have a cross here with an anchor
nice.
there.
And WWJD.
It's everything. I have John 3:16 here. Like, it's everything for me. So
What changed though in that? So we hear this a lot where people go back, or that when people get to a low point, then they kind of reevaluate how their relationship with God, etc. But what is it about it now that you still stuck to it, or like do you feel like something happened immediately, or it was just a comforting thing?
I think it was like you talking about when I got closer?
Yeah, for you to really get into church more. Like, did you go one time and you really heard something, or were you looking for it at that time?
I think when I started to mature in my faith, I understood that church doesn't mean going to a facility.
Okay. Mhm.
Yes.
And that, like, right now what we're having is considered church. A group of
Like,
people
it's all
talking
about
faith.
life.
It's about relationship. So I'm not religious. I have a relationship.
Okay.
You know, so I can have church in Starbucks if I wanted to.
Yeah.
I don't need to be in a facility. And so it was my relationship with God on a personal level. Prayer time, reading my scripture, talking to him in the car, talking to him in the shower, like seeing it work in my personal life and cutting out some stuff that was really toxic that I didn't know was toxic at the time. Like certain stuff, you know, you read the news or,
Oh, God.
you know what I mean? Just like I used to watch basketball and just get so envious because I wanted to be there. So I stopped watching basketball because I didn't
That's a
heal.
good point.
I didn't heal yet.
Things that are
Yeah.
triggering you.
Yeah.
And how do you deal with that?
Right. And so I needed healing. Like my brother passed away in 2007. I didn't heal from that yet. Like I still had a lot of guilt and a lot of shame because he was my best friend. And I had a lot of stuff weighing me down. And so it got to the point where it got so overwhelming that it forced me to let it go and then uncover.
Then you felt
and
lighter.
I felt lighter, and then it allowed me to be more open with what I was dealing with. And it also allowed me to be in a position where I could build a relationship because I was focused on being whole instead of filling myself with friendships or relationships
Yeah.
or career decisions that's trying to fill a void.
So you went from earlier in your story to, I know who I am. I'm great at basketball. I love sports. I'm good at sports. To a period where, shoot, I can't do that. Now I don't know my identity, a crash and burn, and then more of a internal look at yourself and building up who you are that's not based on external.
And what
Right.
you do.
And all of that was like your 20s essentially, right?
Yeah.
So that really, Ace, is kind of a lot earlier. Well, let me not speak for everybody. I just know me and the people that I know. But like, I'm in my 30s, and I feel like every year I get more closer to that, like, oh, like this is what's important, this is what's not important. And it seems like you were kind of forced to figure that out a lot earlier.
Yeah. Well, it's still an ever-going process. Like, there's still things that, you know, we're never going to be perfect, and the goal is for progression, not perfection. You know, so there's still things that I'm dealing with, or, you know, things that I'm growing with today that, but it's just, I was so fortunate to attack it early and to go through what I went through and not try to handle it the way that I used to. So it gave me the skill set to deal with certain things now, and to help other people who are doing it or going through stuff now too. But I mean, I still got my shit.
How did your relationships, or did they change with your friends? Because sometimes as you become more self-aware and you know, you care more about other things, did you feel like that caused any?
That's a great question. So I'll answer it like this. When I was a kid, I was always very inquisitive. I asked a lot. I asked so many questions. And I went to a Catholic high school too, so I had a lot of questions because I grew up Christian. And you know, the Catholic belief and the Christian belief are similar in a lot of areas, but they're different in many ways too, and they're different in key points.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And so I always asked a lot of questions. I was always wanting to know the truth. And so when I became more self-aware with myself, again, going back to changing behavior, some of my behavior changed. So some of the things that I used to do, I wasn't doing anymore. Some of the things I used to find funny, I wasn't finding funny anymore. That's how I knew I had a really, really good group of friends, because I started to see their shift based on my shift.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like... Or
They weren't like, oh, you're lame now.
Y'all could grow together.
But the thing that what they would do, and I'm so fortunate that they did that, if they still partake in certain things that they know I don't anymore, they just won't invite me. And it's not personal. It's just, we know...
And you were okay with
they're
that.
protecting me. You know what I'm saying? In a way. So they're just like, okay, we're going to go to this. You know, Ace, don't even worry about it. We good. We're going to link up tomorrow. I'm good with that.
I mean, is that what you'd want them to say, though? Or...
No, it's not like that we're not going to invite you. They just know that there's
We're not
certain things.
pressuring you.
They just know I'm not going to go anyway.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just not going to go. So it's not like
No love
Ace
lost.
is lame. But it's
And
just
then
like,
on your side, did you have
no.
problems with like trying to not judge people? Or?
Oh, no. And, you know, I never go at people and say, you need to stop doing this, you need to stop doing that. If people want to change, they'll change. But I want them to see the change in me first. So it's like change through osmosis. So it's just like, and I see it in my friends, you know, more recently, since I moved here almost 4 years ago. And there's just certain things that I believe in, or certain things that I do that you see rub off on friends. And there's certain things that rub off on me too. Like, I'm not the almighty whatever, but I do know there's certain things about my character that I've seen transfer to my friends, and that lets me know that I have a really good core, because they're not like, oh my God, here you go again, talking this stuff.
Right.
It's just like,
That's
no,
dope.
okay. They'll ask questions like, how did you, like what we're doing right now, how did you grow in your faith? Like, how did you know this? How did you know that? And they'll just have a conversation.
And that's beautiful. Like you said, it's y'all can grow together, right? And you
that's what
can
it's
be that
about.
example, and y'all inspire each other on the journey.
Yeah.
So you said you moved to LA 4 years ago. So let's say, so you moved from Brooklyn back home.
Ooh.
You were getting together.
Yeah.
When did you, from there, did you move out to LA, or what made you the decision to go to LA?
Okay, so I moved here June of 2015, and I always wanted to move to LA.
Nice.
So I always wanted to move here.
Dang, is that 4 years?
Almost.
I moved here in July of 2015.
It's like 3.5.
October 15th, 2015.
Dang, we all, okay.
All the same year.
So I wanted to move to LA when I moved to New York. The only reason why I moved to New York is because I knew people there. But this was where I wanted to be in the first place. So when I moved here, I packed up, drove all the way out here, made a little trip out of it. Got here in June, like the first week in June. I think it was June 3rd. And I immediately started working back at Tommy Bahama at the Grove. Shout out to TB. Shout out to TB. Yep. They're no longer at the Grove anymore, RIP. But I was there for a few months. And then from there...
That's good to have something you can just hop into, though, especially in LA. You have
Yeah,
to.
but it was whack, though, because like you had to pay to park to work there.
Oh, that
And I was
is
like, I'm paying $10 a
That's
day.
what I heard. So you losing money,
I'm losing.
fam.
I'm like, no, you're only
Really?
paying
So
me
you
10
actually
anyway.
making this much more.
Nah, you should just hop
yeah.
on the bus for that.
Chill for that.
Not if you work at the Mall in Santa Monica, you have to pay too.
Nah,
Like at Third Street.
man,
or
I'm
whatever.
off that. We off that in 2019. We off that.
Nah, we
That's
got paid for
right. I
parking
work
when you
here.
working.
But so then I
I
went
better
from
come
there
up off a pass.
and I started working at LA Fitness in Hollywood. I was a fitness director there. So I didn't train people. I was in charge, me and my boy Caesar. Shout out to Caesar. We were in charge of selling people personal training packages, and then we would give them to the trainer. And then it got to the point where me and him are like, dude, we can make some.
Could do this.
Bread.
Right. So we left, and he left before I did. And we went to Royal Personal Training in Beverly Hills, which is a private gym studio for really high, paying clientele and celebrities. So I was there for like 8 months. And then I left there the winter of 2017, like the winter, spring. And ever since then, I just did my own thing. So I've been independent by myself ever since.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I started a company about 6 months ago. Shout out to New Normal Fitness.
What is it called? One more time.
New Normal Fitness. So now what I do is, again, my life's work is to give back what fitness gave to me. And one of the things I saw growing up in the fitness industry is trainers don't make a lot of money in corporate gyms. And
Not at all.
I want to give young, hungry trainer coaches an opportunity to make more money, but also put them in an environment where they can grow. Because the one thing about working in a corporate gym, your growth, like there's a ceiling there. You can only make so much. You can only train so many people. So I want to develop an ecosystem where I bring in young, hungry, entrepreneurial-minded trainer coaches that can grow their business while being themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things, too, that you don't get in corporate gyms is there's certain structure. Like at LA Fitness, my tattoos couldn't show. You couldn't have facial hair. Like you couldn't, like there's so many restrictions.
Yeah.
And then what they don't understand is that you're hindering a trainer to
They
be
can't be
himself.
themselves.
Right. So now you're more robotic, and I want them to be themselves 100%. So I started a company where I do business with luxury apartment buildings and corporate offices, and then I set up fitness services for their buildings. And so I hire trainers, yoga instructors, boot camp instructors, whatever, and then I basically put them in a facility, and like that's their facility. And then I come in every whatever to be like the master trainer for this class. And but it's basically just, look, this is where I'm putting you. You have an unlimited resource to residents here. You have the facility. You can come and go as you please. But I want you to grow in your business. I want you to grow in your wisdom, and I want you to grow in your personal skills. And then when it's time for them to leave and go do their own thing, it's time for them to leave and go do their own thing.
So with New Normal, you consider yourself an entrepreneur?
Yes.
And so that's the way you're scaling, is by bringing in other folks to help you coach.
Yes.
Or not to help you per se, but to be a part of this team.
Yes. So basically, I'm just duplicating myself. I want to be the guy overseeing everything, but I also want to help coach the philosophies that I have and the ways that's helped me, not just get clients, but to retain them. That's the most important thing, is to retain clientele. It's not just to get clientele. It's easy to get clients.
Yeah.
It's hard to retain.
And to provide real value for
And to
them. I
provide
think that's
value.
the difference, because people always are like, oh, fitness is such a oversaturated market, which if you look at quote unquote trainers, it is. But if you look at people who are providing real value and
Yes.
actually making impact and real change, it's not. It's very hard, like far in between, and we get a really bad rep.
But the thing with trainers, though, even if I'm going in there, like I'm getting something out of a session still, even if you don't know my whole life, like I worked out, I feel like, so you still, it depends on the level you're trying to get to, I guess.
There's, you also got to look at it too from the standpoint, like, you also got to meet people where they are, and some people are just like, look, man, I work 80 hours a week. I just want my ass kicked for 30 minutes or an hour a day. And that's fine. And then over time, usually what happens is those are the same people that are like, well, how do you do this? And how do you do that? And what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? Because they're starting to see themselves change.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
or that they don't know. What I've experienced with people like at one of the gyms that I work at is that they don't know that there's a way to feel better or be better or do better, like more consistently. Like you don't know how good your body can feel until it does.
right.
That you don't have to have that chronic quote unquote knee pain or back pain or feel terrible about yourself.
Yeah, and then the thing too, like you see it spill over into their other lives. Like, I mean, I have clients that were chronic smokers and drank wine out the bottle, and it was just like, Now they
Is
don't
that a
smoke.
problem?
They don't drink. I mean, I'm not judging nobody in here. I'm just
Gosh,
do
let me put
you.
my bottle up.
A glass a day takes everything. So, but you start to see like the decisions that they start to make now are different because they don't want to lose the progress.
Yeah.
They like the way they feel. They like the way that they look. Like they
Yeah,
want to keep
you're
that
right.
going. You know.
And like you said, that's the small wins of it. And when you start to see little changes, or even if you don't see the changes like on a scale, I feel like you start to feel like you just feel better. Like you feel
Right.
more clear. You feel like I'm proud of myself for having done something a few times a week or whatever it
Yeah,
is.
and that's the thing. Like that's what I mean about the behavioral change. When you start to change your behavior, you start to look at it from a different lens. It's not just about the physical part. It's about everything. It's about the mental parts, the emotional part. It's when you leave, like you feel like you just dropped a ton of weight, you know, emotionally. You know, it's the spiritual part, you know, not necessarily you have to get closer to God, but you feel more connected to yourself, you know, because being fit is important. I mean, you start to see on social media now, a lot of the entrepreneurs or CEOs that we look up to or we watch from afar and looking for wisdom, they're in shape.
And they all talk about at some point your physical health, because I think most of their stories, they have this like burnout part, and then it's always about getting your body in shape so you can be clear to do what you have to do like day to day.
And to enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's like being an entrepreneurial athlete.
Yeah.
You know, it's like your physical fitness, and it's not about having a six pack or being able to deadlift 500 or bench press 450, but it's about knowing that there is nothing that you're going to go through today that's going to be harder than what you put yourself through.
Yeah.
That's a life lesson.
And for me, you know, my faith and my fitness are the most important thing. That's why I do them in the morning. So it's like I give myself my armor for the day. I get my faith
That's a
on.
cool way to look at it.
I get my fitness on. Now, whatever is coming my way, I'm ready for it. I'm ready.
You're right. And when you do that early in the morning too, like you are really set for the day.
You're
You're
ready
setting
to
the
go.
tone for
You're
your day.
always set
Setting
for
the
the day. And yet
tone.
I still will have difficulty like getting that started.
Yeah.
But every time I do, I'm like, bet, I'm about to win today.
And that honestly was the hardest part for me. Like once I started to really grow into my business and started to have more clientele, was I was taking appointments super early. Like I get up every day right now between 4:15 and 4:30. But I didn't like the thought of, and I don't want to sound disrespectful to my clientele because they know who they are at 6 a.m. But I didn't like waking up to be somewhere for
other
someone
people.
else.
For other people.
I wanted to wake up knowing I'm waking up for me first. Then I give myself to the world. And I was starting to get drained because I was waking up because, you know,
Putting your energy into other
it's-
things
yeah.
first before filling your own.
Exactly. And it's like, well, then the workout goes from 5 a.m. to 12 p.m. It's like, well, it's lunchtime, then I'll do it at 2. Oh, but I have
then
a
you
client
don't
at
do
3.
it.
Nah, then he's like, I'll do it at 8. I was like, oh, the game's on.
And then, I got to get some sleep because I have a client.
Right.
And
Right.
so a lot of trainers and people in health, they don't end up doing stuff for themselves.
You got to take care of yourself, man. And whatever lane that you're in, you have to take care of yourself first. That is, you are the number one priority over everything else.
A couple more things just because we should kind of start to wrap it up. But for the listeners, do you have any tips on how to stay consistent and just like getting out there?
Well, real quick, sorry, before we go to consistent, what I see we're on the same wave, wrote down is like, if you gave them one tip, like how they can get started, right? It's a new year for someone who might not even have anything to be consistent on yet. Like, well, how do you even get out there?
So, okay, that's a good question. So you can answer that in a couple of ways. So for me, if someone came to me and said, hey, look, I just want to work out. What do I do? I said, okay, well, why do you want to work out? There has to be a reason. I don't care what it is. It doesn't have to be deep, like I'm doing it for my kids, I'm doing it to cure these diabetes, or like I want to lose 10 pounds. You have to have a reason, right? Usually the people who don't know why they want to work out, those are the ones that need to hire a coach because they need accountability.
Yeah.
So I would say step one is to figure out any type of reason that you can come up with where working out is beneficial for you. Whatever that is, hold on to that first. We need a small win. And you acknowledging that you need to do this is the first win. The thing I also want to say for all the New Year's resolutioners out there, having a dream, a resolution, or a goal requires no commitment. You don't have to commit to a dream. You don't have to commit to a resolution. That's why it's easy for people to say that, and it's easy for people to see the end result, but it's hard for people to get in it. because the commitment is when you start. It's not when you say it. So you have to say something that's tangible for you to get right now, that you can see yourself get it now. The second thing is to hire a trainer or a coach. Hire one, because you need accountability. Or if it's out of your budget, there's online training programs that you can find. If that's out of your budget, if you don't want to do that, get an accountability partner or workout buddy. Because usually when people aren't accountable to themselves, they will be accountable to other people.
That's what helped me a lot.
Yeah.
I had to get somebody like, yo, meet me. And then we would go every morning.
And then once you start to do that and get in a rhythm, then everything else starts to take care of itself. But the most important part is just to get you in there and then allow your daily, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to get started. And then allow the process to be the process.
I love that.
I like that. And Ace,
like
I
that?
know you, I like that. We talked about how motivation is kind of bullshit, or just in that thought of what it is itself. But I do know, like Carlie and I know you as well, like to listen to certain types of podcasts, read certain types of books. So how do you feel, or what do you feel is the importance of what you put in as far as listening to those things? And is it really based on what you've kind of said with your story, that you have to be in a place where you are moving and you're consistent and you are doing the action necessary, but now this outside word just kind of keeps you fueled, or what?
So one of the things, I think one of the biggest mistakes that I made when I really got into the personal development stage is I was looking for someone to agree with how I felt instead of telling me what I needed to hear. And so the information that I bring in is always someone that, one, has been there, done that. I can actually research them and be like, oh, they're for real.
I'm glad you said that's a really, really good point, because everybody has content about everything now. And it's like, but what have you actually done?
Right.
Where's your fruit?
Being an entrepreneur or a motivational whatever is like the new rapper. It's like everyone is on the wave. And I mean, it's putting more love into the world, but it's also
weird.
putting more
facade out there too, a little bit.
Because the thing with fitness too, I mean, I did mention this, but I'm glad we're on this topic, is that there's so much information out there as far as diets, trends, cleanses and stuff like that.
And then on the explore page of Instagram now, it's like nobody wants to do regular stuff, so you're in there doing the most random stuff with this equipment that you don't need to be doing.
And so what ends up happening is the health and fitness industry is majority BS because it profits off people's ignorance. And by ignorance, I don't mean people are stupid. It's just they don't know. So it's a business that really thrives to keep people dependent on a product or dependent on a specific way to eat or dependent on a training style, which is why my philosophy when coaching is I'm coaching you to leave me. I'm not coaching you to stay. I'm not coaching you to the point where you have to have me in order to thrive. Now, if you want to be with me, that's one thing. Needing to be with me is another.
Different. So you're teaching people to fish.
Exactly. I'm teaching people how to tie their own damn shoes. So, but I listen to podcasts all the time. I read a ton. I read last year I read over 30 books.
Nice.
And I do Audible a lot because I'm always in my car. And I'll listen to Audible. Shout out to Audible. And then
I do too, but there's that library app too where you can listen to everything free.
Yep.
Really?
On what?
I'm like, oh, wait,
my
what?
phone's recording right now, but I'll tell you.
Plug?
Okay.
Plug?
I'll plug it in the notes.
Shout out to whatever app.
Swipe up for a discount.
And then
Shout
you
out
can
to
get a
whatever app
LA
Lex
library
uses.
card online and then use that to listen to all the audiobooks at the library.
dang.
What?
So right now I'm rereading.
Free game.
Shout out to Trav Bond.
Free game,
put me on the other
Trav
day.
Bond.
But somebody else told me about it recently, so I'm like, all right, this is a sign. Because I heard about it twice in
Confirmation.
the same few weeks, yeah.
What books are you guys reading right now? Let me flip the script on y'all.
I'm reading Becoming by Michelle Obama.
I'm
reading
my
10X.
homegirl.
I read 3 books at a time. So I'm reading Becoming by Michelle Obama. I'm reading 10X. And I'm reading...
Shout out to Grant Cardone.
Yep. And then The World Before Us.
Okay.
It's like it was a gift. It's an awesome book.
Now, do
but
you
I'm
read
excited.
one to? Are you you read and then put it down and pick up another one and go?
Yeah, I start my day fortifying myself. So something that, that. And then later on in the day, I'll read a businessy book. And then at night, something else.
Okay.
That's interesting. I'm rereading 10X right now because I just finished another one. And then I have another book by my friend, Mikkel Clark, that I'm reading. It's affirmations, and the name of it's escaping me right now.
Shout out to Mikkel Clark.
Yeah, we shouted him out one time, yeah.
So go pick up that book.
Yeah, I can't think of what the name of it is. But for you and where you are right now, so what is it that you need, what you're looking for as far as like to the listeners? Like, is there anything, I don't know, like what is your kind of gift to them, and then what are you looking for right now?
Like your give and take. So if New Normal Fitness or Ace has something to offer, and then also what do you need?
Like in relationships?
No, like getting to like the next level of like, like what are you focused on now?
So right now, my thing for 2019 is becoming. So it's just focusing on what do I have to do to be that ultimate person that I want to be, whatever that person is. Because even I don't even know what that is yet because we're still growing. But it's just focusing on mastering myself, mastering the details, mastering the minutia, and not skipping the process, and then allowing whatever goals or accomplishments comes through that process come to me. So, I mean, I have goals, but I'm not really going after any particular thing. I'm becoming who I need to be and then allowing that to come to me. So I guess what I can offer people is, you know, I just really want the people to understand, like, there's so much more on the inside that you don't even know that you're capable of doing.
Yeah.
And it's been suppressed through what one person said, what your mama said, what your daddy said, your significant other, life, your circumstance, your environment. Maybe you didn't have a role model. Maybe your environment wasn't the best. But one thing I can say through my 31, I'm 31, my 31 years is that God don't make mistakes. And you are not born a mistake, and you are not born average. So if you feel like you're living a life below your capabilities, that's a good start because now you're starting to become more self-aware. Now, what I want people to do is I want people to start attacking the things that they can see immediate results now. Because again, to me, momentum and progression is the biggest motivator. So that's why fitness is so important to me, because that's what it gave me. It gave me an opportunity to take control of what I could control, let go of what I can't, and go from there. So for everyone that's listening and watching, I want you to focus on only doing the things that you can have complete control of to see an outcome right now. And then let go of all the things that involve someone else, that involves something else, and then allow the process of you mastering yourself take care of all the things. Because I don't want to turn this into a Joel Osteen podcast, but I will say that I hear a lot of people say, God got me. And that's true. But one thing I will say is that he will not use his
for a reason.
He will not use his supernatural power to do what you're supposed to do with your natural ability.
What you can do for yourself.
So you have to use your natural ability in order for him to come in and be like, all right, let me sprinkle this on him real quick.
Right.
Yeah, but he ain't gonna do it for you.
He's ready for it now.
Right.
He's not gonna do it for you.
You have to prep yourself for the blessing. You know, so you got to prep. You know, and everything that we do is training. You're prepping all the time. Relationships, finances, your career. You are constantly being in fitness. Fitness is not just the body. It's financial, it's mental, it's relationships, everything. Everything is fitness based.
Yeah.
You know, everything is about repetition. The reward will eventually take care of itself if you commit to the process of being fit.
Yeah.
That's
and
what I
how
want.
can people work with you, or can they?
What do you mean, privately?
Well,
private,
however,
or you need trainers.
Yeah, like do you?
So what you
Because you don't train specifically one-on-one anymore. So like, how can people?
So
if they
I do a little bit.
Okay.
You know, I'm not out like I used to be, but I
So
still
I want
do.
you to put out whatever you actually want to put out, because I don't want you.
Okay, so follow me on Instagram.
What's your Instagram?
At I am Coach Ace. I am Coach Ace. Follow me on Instagram. If you have any questions about anything, you can DM me there. Appropriate DMs. Or you can email me at iamcoachace@newnormalfitness.com.
Okay, cool.
Website is almost up and running. Be on the lookout for that.
Nice.
And that'll be newnormalfitness.com as well. But I'm all about giving, you know, like I don't charge for advice. I don't charge for that. You know, like if you have any questions about anything, shoot me a DM, write a comment on a post or something like that. You know, I'm always going to respond. I'm always going to answer emails. I'm always going to answer DMs. You know, if it's appropriate DM, I don't want no foolishness in my stuff because you will get blocked.
Yeah, be respectful.
But yeah, like I'm all about sharing advice. I'm not like, it's not going to be have to come in for a consultation for that. It's going to be like, I'm going to give you the answer And then whatever you want to do after that is on you.
That's good. I like that. I feel like you gave us a lot of valuable like gems and information.
Did I serve y'all
your
well?
Story.
You did. I
Thank
feel
you.
like there's a lot of synchronicity and confirmation just in the conversations that what we've been talking about lately. And yeah.
And even from older episodes, there's little things that come out and that keep like becoming like a thread in all the episodes. So I like that, and it's good just to hear it through different stories. Like your story is super unique in it. Like we're never gonna talk to anybody else who has the exact same story.
Very
so
true.
The way you weaved in your passion and making yourself a better person to now that's something that you want to for other people to see in you and for them to kind of be persuaded to do is really cool, and that it's with that focus of fitness. So the way you relate it to you, I think was very interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah, and he got some quotes because I'm the quote master. So now I got some more on my list.
Got some more quotes on
Yeah,
there?
we're going to get you some good videos.
All right.
And then we end every episode with the question of the week.
Oh.
And this week, the question is, I'll start by asking Lex. Well, I'll ask it, then I'll ask Lex. What do I stand for?
What do I stand for? What do I stand for? I stand for equality and being a resource and providing resources and space to people who are underserved or who have been underserved in our communities. And I say that in that my goal in everything I do, but my end goals are really to help empower our communities. And I want to see people find their passion, know their passion, and be able to do work in whatever field they can that is giving back as well. So that's kind of like my focus and what I stand for. I stand for, I like to see people empowered. So whatever kind of gets people there.
Yep.
Snap. That one.
Do you want me to go next or do you want to go next? I'll give you the option. I'm just put Lex out.
I was
there.
say this whole
I'll
episode
go.
was about what you stand for, kind of.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, okay, we can skip me. We can go to you.
Okay. I stand for love and helping people become the best versions of themselves. Like when I do like holistic health and wellness, that is such a Carlie answer. But holistic health and wellness is really about empowering people, giving them a brave space to own their power and step into what they're doing. Because like I say so often, rising tides raise all ships. My heart really is in underserved communities, especially communities of color. But for everyone to be happy and to find their purpose and what makes them happy, because then the world gets a little bit better.
What do you stand for, Ace?
She turned. She was like, "What you stand for?"
Yeah. Detroit.
Yeah, I stand for Detroit.
Shout out Detroit.
Detroit versus everybody. Can we get the zoom
It's
in?
so cold in the
Cameraman, zoom in. I stand for uncovering and just
I like that.
uncovering your truth and uncovering why you are here and what you feel your purpose is, and empowering people through my gifts to help shine that light on them, for them to take that next step for what they need to do to implement whatever they feel they're here for.
That was a great answer.
I love that. And I feel like they're all so like unique, but also similar and true to who I believe we are and who, you know, I'm getting to know you. But it just reminds me of like a miscongeniality. Everybody was like, world peace.
Right.
Yeah.
But like we said, that's one of those things, like as you grow in certain areas, you want people to feel that, you know?
Yeah.
And we're all still like well, let me not speak for y'all. I don't consider myself like, oh, I'm a success and
Nope.
I've made it all the way.
I'm with you.
But like we're all in this same path of like, okay, I feel like we know kind of the formula, and now it's just working it out, figuring out what works for us. And as we live, however we live, people are attracted to you. And then, you know, other people's lives are changed.
It's just like when you see a movie that you really like, it's like you got to share it. You know, it's like when you reach a new milestone, or you get some new growth and some new wisdom, like you want to share that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so stop waiting to feel like you have to be perfect or like you have to reach a certain level before you start working in your purpose. Like stop waiting.
And that key of what A said is to focus your work on yourself. And then
It flows out.
let
It
it flow
flows.
out.
And
It
with that, screenshot Carlie's Couch hashtag. Subscribe to our newsletter. We be dropping some dope stuff and sending funny GIFs. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Also check out Ace. I am Coach Ace on Instagram. I am Coach Ace at New Normal Fitness, and soon to come newnormalfitness.com. Hey.
Let's do this.
Big things on the way
The
this
last
year.
question is, what do you stand for? Like, think about that. What do I stand for? Screenshot it. Send it to us. Let us know what you're thinking.
Yeah. And make sure you I am Coach Ace on those screenshots so he can see the love. Thank you guys.
Show me some love, y'all.
Yeah, but appropriately.
I can't wait to re-listen to this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ace. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate what you guys do. I admire it.
Thank you.
You guys are
Thank
doing a
you.
great thing, and I feel blessed to be here. So I'm glad I did some good for
Yeah,
your viewership.
You blessed us with your presence. We look forward to seeing your content as you continue to put that out and grow as well.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you. Happy Monday, y'all.
Is it Monday?
It's
It is
Monday.
It's Monday when this goes out.
Okay. Happy Monday, y'all. In quotes.
Bye.